Hello and happy Monday. Happy Family Day to everybody. Happy February 19. Currently it's 5:24 p.m. and today we're discovering on Discover with Spinetti on why you're waking up without energy. Why are you waking up feeling sluggish? How many times have you hit the snooze button this morning? And what is it that you have to do to re-examine why you have such low energy? If you've ever woken up and said to yourself, "Oh, another day," then you need to watch this because there are some practical tips that you need to re-examine in your life so that you don't hit the snooze button anymore and you wake up actually fresh and excited, ready to take on the day. This isn't some hocus pocus type of stuff. This is actual, practical steps for you to actually do on a regular basis and for you to even examine. It really starts off with just examining, asking certain questions as to what you're doing with your life and why are you waking up with such low energy with such limited time that you have in your life. Let's get started. The first thing that you want to examine, or the three things that you want to examine, are your purpose, your plan, and your progress. Your purpose is a choice that you make that cannot be delayed. So when you have a purpose and you are waking up to it, then you're waking up to something that is exciting because you have something to fulfill. There's a why in your life. There's a big why. The plan. There's no such thing as a wrong plan. There's only a lack of a plan, and that is wrong. And thirdly, the progress. You cannot improve what you do not measure. And that's from Peter Drucker. Now, in terms of the purpose is something that you really want to hone in on. And this is something that's probably going to either resonate with you or you're going to completely disagree with. But I hope you at least think about it. I'm okay with you disagreeing with the things that I have to say. I mean, the majority of the things that I say are research based. So even if you disagree with me, then I would want to have a conversation with you so that we can see what you're coming up with. And maybe I can reflect on things that I've said or things that I think of so that I can kind of change things and tweak things a little bit to get a little bit better. Now, in terms of finding a purpose, this is probably the most important thing that you want to do in your life. Now, research has constantly proven again and again that those people that have a purpose are more fulfilled, happier, live longer, are healthier, have a higher immune system, get sick a lot less. I mean, if there's anything that's worth doing is for you to find your purpose. Now, how do you find your purpose? There are some very practical, non-shishi woo-woo type of steps that you can do so that you can find your purpose. The first of which is to get in shape. That's step number one in finding your purpose. Now, why do I say that you have to get in shape? Because if you're out of shape and you feel sluggish, how do you know that the purpose that you're choosing is not something that you're trying to escape from in your mind because you're out of shape, because you're feeling low energy, because you're sluggish? How do you know that those things are not influencing, quote unquote, your purpose? Your purpose is something grand. It's something incredible. It's something that's going to wake you up and charge you. It's not dependent on whether or not that you feel sluggish or whether you have low energy or whether you're in a bad mood or a good one. Your purpose remains constant. And so it's really important for you to have a proper purpose. It's very hard and difficult for you to come up with a proper purpose without having a proper foundation. And there is no better foundation than your body. If your body's out of shape because you're not exercising, you're not moving properly, you're not breathing properly, you're not exercising regularly, you're eating junk food on a regular basis, you're not watching what you're putting inside your mouth, you're putting a lot of sugars, refined foods. If you are consistently doing this, how do you know that you're actually making the right decisions with regards to your purpose? You won't. So that's the first thing. So if you're not in shape, the first thing that you should do is get in shape. Whether you hire a coach, whether you look up some kind of nutritional plan on the internet, and by the way, it's incredibly easy, or whether or not that you want to get some kind of workout routine or whatever it is, get in shape. That should be your number one priority. And that should literally juice you because you're looking to find your purpose. I know it kind of sounds weird. I understand. Because if you're out of shape, you're probably feeling sluggish. You're probably depressed. You're probably feeling down on yourself. You're probably not liking the environment that you're in because you're feeling sluggish and all that stuff. And you're trying to find a reason why aren't you sleeping well and all this stuff. I know it's very counterintuitive, but it really comes down to you need to get in shape. It's literally that simple. Get in shape. That's step number one. Step number two is clear your mind. I'm going to put up the slide here so you can see it. Step number two is clear your mind. Clearing your mind simply means that you have to give your mind some respect. Just exactly how you're giving your body respect, you have to give respect to your mind. And there's no way for you to find your purpose if your mind is bombarded with a bunch of things, with a bunch of regrets in your past, with a bunch of things that you wish you haven't, that you wish you would have done differently. If you are constantly in that state, then there's no way for you to figure out your purpose because you're going to be looking around. You're going to be asking people, I have no idea what my purpose is. What is it? What is the fastest way for you to clear your mind? Meditation. Again, studies have shown over and over again, meditation is like the miracle drug. If there is a miracle drug, it's meditation. Besides sleep, it's meditation. Meditation will clear your mind, boost your immune system, boost your memory. The reason I'm smirking is like, yes, it does all these things and much, much more. Improves your mood, improves your balance. Like it is the quintessential thing in your life for you to live the best life ever is literally to meditate. And the best part of all, it's free. You don't have to pay a cent. You don't have to go anywhere. You don't have to join a membership club. You don't have to do a course. You literally just sit there and focus on your breathing. That is the simplest method of meditation. And there are tons of YouTube videos that you can watch that can literally direct you in the proper method of doing meditation. Don't delay this one. Now, if you're the type of person that says, I've done meditation before, it didn't work for me. Meditation is not for me. It's kind of like saying I exercised before and it's not for me. It just didn't work for me. It doesn't make sense because exercise works. Whoever applies exercise on a consistent basis with a proper diet routine, sleeps regularly, and watches what they eat, they'll get results. I don't care who you are. They'll get results. Similarly with meditation. And so meditation and exercise are the first two steps that I recommend you do, and researchers recommend that you do so that you can allocate time in your mind to find your purpose. What's the step number three in finding your purpose? I'm going to add this back on, is the 100 questions. I've discussed this before in two other podcasts. The 100 questions thing is so incredibly revolutionary. I mean, it's not a new idea, but it's a really cool thing because asking questions, no matter what they are, asking questions will allow you to analyze your current state. Simply by doing that, it'll clarify your mind. It'll clarify what you're doing. It'll actually get you to ask certain questions so that you can break out of the habits that are destroying your body, your mind, your soul, your life. Now, how does the 100 questions method work? It's quite simple. It's a 3-step process. The step number one, you take 30 minutes out of your day, and I recommend you do this once a week because it doesn't make sense for you to do this just once. You do this once a week, and you write down 100 questions, whatever questions that are on your mind. And the reason why this is important is because if you have burning questions in your mind that you are not finding answers to, that's going to create fog, and it's not going to allow you to find your purpose. It's kind of like if I'm trying to solve an equation and I'm really like, my mind is really into it and I can't solve it, I'm not going to be able to think of anything else until I solve the equation. Well, similarly to these 100 questions, when you get these 100 questions, you're going to narrow them down to 10, and the 10 that you see are the most impactful. And then you're going to order those. That's step number 3. You're going to order them from most impactful to least impactful, and then you're going to answer those questions. By answering those questions continuously, your mind is now zoned in on those questions. And then as you answer those questions, obviously those questions will no longer be there. And so you'll have different questions. Now, the more questions that you answer, the more clarity you're going to achieve in your mind. And hence, you're going to have more reason for you to find a purpose, or more clarity, or more ways for you to find your purpose. Because finding your purpose is huge. Now, lastly, and this is probably the biggest thing, is literally to discover by doing. I'm going to put the slide back up. It's literally this one, discover by doing. Now, if you discover by doing, simply by doing things, then you are literally going in a direction that fulfills your soul. Because you're only going to do things that is going to be enjoyable to you or that you find fulfilling or you find challenging. You're literally just by doing things, even if you do not know what you're doing, by doing things, you're going to discover what you like, what you don't like, what you resonate with. Now, the thing that I find that stops literally 95% of people, if not more, is their fear of making mistakes, their fear of being made fun of by other people, which I find ridiculous because the majority of people don't know what they're doing anyway. Let's be honest. If you are a person, if you're watching this and you're a person that criticizes other people, I bet you anything you don't know what you're doing because you will never be criticized by people above you, like people who have achieved more than you. Truly, you will never be criticized by them because they understand what it takes for you to get to their level. They understand the struggles. They'll be happy for you. As a matter of fact, if you approach those people that are at the level that you want to get to, they'll actually help you out. But if people are actually making fun of you, criticizing you, talking smack about you behind your back, they've got nothing to live for. Because if that's the only thing consuming their mind, then you have to understand their purpose is nothing. People that have high purposes have better things to talk about. They have better things to deal with. Their life is full of fulfillment, full of joy. I always approach people and I know immediately whether someone is in a good state or a bad state simply by the way that they interact with me. I don't even have to know them, but simply by the way that they interact with me, I know it'll take me maybe 10 seconds and I will know whether or not that they are a happy person or whether they're a miserable person. So discover by doing. Don't care about what other people think because most people don't think about what you're doing, by the way. But the few that do don't have much else to do. So you should feel sorry for them, but they shouldn't be the ones that are stopping you from discovering your purpose. So this is the number one thing for you to do, for you to find your purpose. Once you find your purpose, then getting out of bed becomes something exciting. You look forward to get out of bed so you can actually fulfill your purpose. Step number one to finding your purpose is get in shape. Step number two is clarity. Clear your mind by meditation. Step number three is do the 100 questions. Set aside 30 minutes a day for you to do the 100 questions weekly and answer those questions. Answer the top 10 that you find to be most impactful. And lastly, discover by doing. Don't wait for that momentous occasion. Don't wait for something to descend from the sky, for a revelation. Don't wait for any kind of epiphany before you actually do anything. Just do it. Keep doing it over and over again, and then you will find your way. The more actions that you take, the more results that you will obtain. That's the first thing that you're going to examine, which is your purpose. So if you're waking up in the morning and you're snoozing and you're hitting the snooze button, or you're waking up and you're saying this dreaded sentence, oh, another day, then purpose is something you need to look at. Number two is the plan. The plan. Now, what is it about the plan? What is it about the plan? If you don't have a plan, well, that's the problem. Because now you're just wandering around in life hopelessly aiming for something. But if you have a plan and you're still waking up with that feeling, then you have to re-examine the plan. Peter Drucker says, planning is not an event. It's a continuous process of strengthening what works and abandoning what does not, making ongoing adjustments as conditions change. Again, planning is not an event. It is a continuous process of strengthening what works and abandoning what does not, making ongoing adjustments as conditions change. Now, that means that when you make a plan, it's not static. It's not like, oh, this is my plan for the next year and I need to follow it strictly. No, you have to adjust it based on the conditions of what you're going to go through. But you have to at least have a plan. A bad plan is always better than having a no plan, because they say that if you have no plan, then you are just part of a plan of someone else's plan. Now, this is here, and I'm going to put the slide back up. This here is called a SMART plan. Okay, SMART stands for specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, and time-bound. You can look this up. I'm sure you've heard of this if you've gone through any form of education whatsoever. It's really talked about by literally everybody. A smart plan is the way to come up with a plan, because if you don't have a deadline, then it simply is a wish. That's the difference between a plan and a wish, is that you have a deadline. And literally that's it. It comes down to that. So, but to break it down to the five components, it needs to be specific. So if you're trying to, for instance, lose weight, this is one of the things that, that you want to think about. So the first thing is that it has to be specific. So what is it that you want to do? Well, I want to lose weight. Okay, if I want to lose belly fat, fine. What is the thing that you're going to measure? You're going to measure the amount of weight that's going to be lost. So let's say you're going to say, well, I'm going to lose 30 pounds in the next 6 months. Okay, cool. Achievable. Have you done this before? Have you lost any form of weight in a certain period of time? Do you think 30 pounds loss is achievable? Well, if you haven't done it before, then more than likely you should scale back so that you don't overload yourself and put something completely unrealistic, so that you don't lose motivation. So maybe lower it down to 10 or 15. So that's the achievable part, to be realistic. The relevant part is you have to ask the why, right? So you ask yourself, why am I doing this? How important is it, from a scale from 1 to 10? How important is it for me to actually get this done? And lastly, but certainly not least, and there's one more thing that most people don't really talk about, which is probably more important than all those five metrics or all those five components of the SMART plan. And I'll get to that in a second, but being time bound. Now, having a time, having something that you're aiming for is probably the scariest thing, because now it holds you accountable. And that is something that stops people from even making a plan or even getting a goal, is because they don't want to think about the stress that it involves when they're actually thinking about making a plan. They don't want to put a deadline because they think to themselves, I'm setting myself up for failure. What's the point of me actually putting a plan together when I know I'm not going to meet it? And so putting a deadline increases the stress, doesn't decrease it, causes you to have anxiety, causes you to not want to actually do it. And then you just sit back and eat chips and watch Netflix, and you completely forget about it. And then next year, you're going to say, there's no point in me even coming up with a plan or goal or resolution, because every time I come up with it, I don't meet it. And so that's why when people put this time bound thing, it scares them. But here's the thing that you should probably think about. As long as you put a goal that is achievable, and that's why it's important that you actually analyze, is this achievable? And then you put something that is time bound in that achievement. You break it down into, weeks and months according to how you're supposed to achieve it, and you actually execute on it. This is something that is going to give you that juice, that boost, for you to wake up fulfilled in the morning, or wake up actually feeling like you want to achieve something in the morning, during the day. Time bound is the difference, again, between having a wish and having an actual goal. And lastly, remember, with regards to time bound, remember Parkinson's law. And I find this to be really interesting. Parkinson's law states that the amount of time required to do a task is directly related to the amount of time given. So if I say that I'm going to study for an exam, and this exam is in a month, and I'm going to take a month for me to study for this exam, it's going to take me a month for me to study for this exam. How many times have you studied for an exam, if you've gone through college or university or even high school? How many times have you actually said to yourself, I'm going to spend this week to study for the exam, and then you leave it all the way to the night before? And then you still end up with, I don't know, 70%, 80%. And you say to yourself, if I only had a few more hours, if I only had one more day, I would ace that exam. How many times have you said that? This is Parkinson's law, is that if you allow yourself a very short period of time, truly, and you put yourself under that stress and duress without running away from it, you will be able to achieve so much more than if you were to extend that time, give yourself a lot more time for you to achieve that goal, that same goal. Now, what's the last thing on that? That's probably, in my opinion, the most important, is obstacles. Every time we plan things, we always think of things in terms of their flowers, in terms of the rose, in terms of the rainbow, in terms of how good it's going to feel. And the cool thing about planning and thinking about the future and hope, with hope, is that it gives you the same dopamine hit as if you've actually achieved it. And this is scientifically proven, is that if you are actually thinking about achieving a goal, you get the same boost as in dopamine as if you were to get that specific goal achieved. And so then, you don't actually think about obstacles. You don't think about the things that are going to stop you because you're in this like euphoric state. Well, that is going to lead to failure eventually. The number one thing, in my opinion, that should be considered when doing a plan is thinking about the obstacles. So after you come up with the plan, is now you have to play devil's advocate and you think to yourself, okay, what is the thing that is going to stop me? Or what are the things that are going to stop me? Now, here you see that there's this man jumping across a few blocks, and this is in an ocean, and there are sharks there, and these are the obstacles. Seldom do we actually think about the obstacles, but these are unfortunately the things that we're going to face. Now, how do you know what obstacles you're going to face? Well, I mean, the best thing is to ask someone that's been there. So, and I challenge you, and I think that the majority of people don't actually think this way. When you do a plan, I don't know if you are an exception to the rule, but the majority of us, when we do a plan, we don't go to someone who's done it and say, can you go through this plan with me and tell me what is wrong with it? Because if you go to enough people who've achieved what you're trying to get to, and they go through the plan with you, you're going to come through they're going to tell you a lot of the negative things that can happen with regards to your plan. Well, that's great. It's not meant to demotivate you. It's meant for you to go back to the drawing board and say, okay, how do I overcome this obstacle that's going to come up? How do I overcome this obstacle? The more that you are prepared to overcome the obstacles, the more that when it comes, you're going to be like, oh yeah, they told me about that. I have a plan for that. Here it is. So this is part of the equation called WOOP. WOOP. WOOP stands for wish, outcome, obstacle, plan. So when you have a wish, something that you want to achieve, the outcome of the specifics of what you want to achieve, like how much you want to achieve of it, and then the obstacles, and then you come up with the plan. So this is another equation on how to come up with a good plan. Is the wish, the outcome, the obstacle, and then the plan. And last but certainly not least is the progress. There are two things with regards to progress. One thing that the majority of us actually measure, which is something called the lag measure or the result. The X number of dollars we're going to lose, the X amount of weight that we're going to lose. Sorry, the X amount of dollars we're going to gain, X amount of weight that we're going to lose, the number of tournaments we're going to win. Whatever it is, those are called the lag measures. The lead measures is something that is not really focused on, but scientifically, it's been proven that if you focus on the lead measure, then that automatically improves the lag measure. Let me explain. The lead measure is something that is performance based. So, for instance, if you're playing golf, and you obviously want to score a certain amount. Okay, so that your goal is to score a certain amount so you can beat your opponents. That's the lag measure, okay, the results. But if you focus on the lag measure, then the lead measure doesn't improve. Now, if you focus on the lead measure, automatically the lag measure improves. The lead measure is how well do you swing? How well do you show up to the golf range? How do you hold the golf club? And all these performance-based issues that you can score so that if you focus on perfecting the lead measure, the lag measure automatically improves. There's a story of this very famous golf player. I don't know the name of it, but I know the story is that he started to lose, okay, and he wasn't winning for a period of time. And so he went to this person and he said, I'm having trouble winning. What should I do? And so then they focused on the lead measure, which is his performance, which is the way that he swings, how he exercises, how he trains, and all that stuff. And they put it on a scorecard. They didn't focus on the lag measure at all, to the point where in the tournament, what he did was that he was so focused, because that's all he practiced. All he practiced was the lead measure. He was so focused on the lead measure that on his last swing, right, the last round, after he hit after he hit the golf ball, and he won, he turned around and he said, "Did I win?" That's how much he trained. He actually trained his psyche to not think about the lag measure, to only think about the lead measure. And yes, he ended up winning. The only way he was able to know that he won is because his wife, 10 seconds later, ran across the field to go and hug him, and his opponent went and shook his hand, tell him good job. That's the only way that he was able to know that he won. So this is it's a trick, kind of like a hack that you can have for yourself to know what are the lead measures for yourself so that you can improve them. And then automatically, what's going to happen is that the lag measures will improve. And that is it, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you benefited. I hope that you find your purpose, you re examine your plan, and you start measuring your progress. Have yourself a great night.